Fest called the Global FinTech Fest 2022. At this point, I'd request you all to kindly wear your headset because this is a silent conference, so my worries would be always thinking that the mic is not working. It's just that the mic is working perfectly fine, but this is a silent conference, so I'd request you to please tune in and plug in to your headsets provided to you. Also request to the panel members and moderators, wear your headset. I see you've already done that. So ladies and gentlemen, the Global FinTech Fest 2022 has been brought to you by National Payments Corporation of India, the Payment Council of India, and the FinTech Convergence Council. This edition of the fest is supported by the Department of Economic Affairs, RBI, and IFSCA. Today, we'll witness a conflux and convergence where some of the most revered thought leaders, influencers, enviable experts, decision takers, and policy makers come together to discuss, deliberate, and delineate the future trends impacting the fintech industry. So get ready to soak your senses in the practical insight, pragmatic experiences, and eclectic exposure of our speakers, practitioners, who are going to bring to the table perspicacious insights and industry acumen garnered over the years. The fintech industry has progressed exponentially over the past few years. Currently, finance companies around the world are innovating and adapting to newer and avant-garde technologies, aiming for sustainable financial systems to make life easier, quicker, positive, and scalable. Policymakers, on the other hand, are working to facilitate this change systematically, securely, and for long-term implications. The adoption of these technologies are being driven by collaboration between fintechs, government, corporation. This year, the theme for 2022 is going to be about creating a sustainable financial world which is global, inclusive, and green. So our basic intention is that this fest should be able to engage with public and private stakeholders alike, collaborate, augment learning, and take action towards enhancing a sustainable finance globally. And to kickstart our round of discussions, conversations, and dialogue, I'd like to set the context for our first panel discussion. Well, the Metaverse has been exercising our imagination since Neil Stephenson introduced the concept in the year 1992 with his cyberpunk novel show Crash. The evolution of the internet is expected to see the rise of online three times of virtually integrated environments that provide users the access to virtual reality and augmented reality experiences. So our first panel discussion is going to be touching upon the aspects of Metaverse, and it gives me great honor and privilege to call on stage our moderator to facilitate this part of the discussion, Mr. Siddharth Rungta, Country Head Global Liquidity and Cash Management, HSBC India. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a big round of applause. It's right in the morning time. And joining him on stage are the following speakers, beginning with Mr. Anand, Kadian, founder and CEO at Kitmek and Billion Bricks. We also have with us Mr. Shourya Agarwal, founder at Flam. We also have Manjunatha Kukkuru, AVP and Principal Research Analyst at Infosys Center for Emerging Technology Solutions. So with this, I give the stage to you. Over to you, Siddharth.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here. I can see the room is a little thin in terms of attendance, and I'm hoping that a lot of audience is sitting in the Metaverse listening to us. Or what I mean is probably the digital streaming which is happening of this session. Just to call out our third panelist, Shourya, he's on his way. He should be joining us soon, but in the interest of time, we'll start. Before we get into a very interesting discussion ahead of us, I just want to set some context. I think Metaverse as a concept has been around in different shapes or form for some time, but it has really attracted a lot of attention, a lot of interest in the last few months or years. It has fascinated me quite a bit personally, and that's the reason why I decided that let's have a discussion on this topic, and I would like to moderate the panel because I'm not an expert. So I kind of try to pull together a few experts who can enlighten not just me, but the audience here. Now, the other thing is that the idea is not to really get too technical here, in terms of the technology associated with Metaverse, which is the concept as I understand from Manju. We would focus a lot more on practical applications of Metaverse as a concept and the various technologies which come together to really create a Metaverse. What are the real life use cases or the problem statements which are really being solved using Metaverse, than go into the technical aspects of Metaverse. But just to kind of, as an icebreaker, just to start and give a little bit of a very high-level overview from a technical perspective, I would ask Manju if you can just demystify Metaverse in a very simple form for our audience here.
Sure. Hi, thanks, Siddharth. Good morning, everybody. A warm welcome to this session. I'm quite happy to be here after many years. And I think the MC made sure that, we need to have 2x the energy for this session. Now, getting to the idea of Metaverse, simply put, Metaverse is conceptualized as an alternate universe beyond the universe that we experience today. Obviously, this alternate universe is made of digital technologies, which is virtual. And it is an evolution of internet from a kind of a 2D to a 3D world, and where you would have much more deeper immersive experiences, much more real social engagements, and a persistent, always-on presence in that world. This is a Metaverse is still under kind of in the works. Its truest sense will take a long time to happen. But I guess it should be a little more easier for us Indians to understand this, knowing that we have always spoken or learnt about different lokas existing, right? So we've always learnt about Devaloka or Patala Loka, etc. These are all different universes in themselves, and it's a very similar phenomena. It's being conceptualized out here with avatars of yourself in this particular, Metaverse universe. Now, this Metaverse universe of sorts is expected to address a few fundamental needs of humans. Let me identify and share 3 of them. So one is about information. We've always been hungry for information. Internet made sure that information is globalized, is available for knowledge sharing, transaction, etc. Now, with the Metaverse, the idea is to make sure that information is much more richer and much more real of sorts. Extending the second element or the dimension of a Metaverse world is being social. This entire social platform phenomena with your Facebooks, Instagrams, etc. took the world, by storm over the last decade or so. Now you're looking at how do you make this engagement or make the social interactions much more richer, many, many times beyond what you would have seen in the normal way of life. The third and important one is the ability to live in a fantasy world, to be able to play a particular game, in this virtual world. Obviously, games have always been there. Now, how do you make them more immersive and rich? So these are the 3, let us say, key features or functions that you would see more and more in the Metaverse. Now, coming to the technology that delivers these 3, you can think of 3 broad clusters of technologies that are enabling creation of such a Metaverse. Number 1 is this whole capability for creating immersive experiences, immersive technologies like AR, VR technologies, which gives a user to live in a different world, different virtual world, experience a different virtual experience beyond the real experience. The second set of technologies are a combination of physical and the virtual world, what we call the phygital technologies, like the digital twins, where you can experience the physical world but in a virtual sense. The third is the entire idea of decentralization of this whole internet and this experience, where technologies like blockchain, NFTs, cryptos, etc. play a role in helping people to, interact, transact on such Metaverse platforms. I hope this should give you a basic kind of a conceptual view of what is the need and how it is being addressed through these technologies in the metaverse world.
No, absolutely. Thank you, Manjunatha. I think a very well put together explanation of what Metaverse is, or probably it sounds more like a multiverse, than a Metaverse. But thank you for this articulation. In fact, the three components in the end you called out will probably park the whole NFTs and cryptos aside because, we have a limited time, and if we get into those topics, probably we're going to be here for the whole day. But since we are really talking about the practical applications to real-life world problems, how they can be solved with the concept of Metaverse, we'll probably focus more on the first two, which is the whole the physical and the immersive experience. And in that context, probably, Anand, I would like to call upon you in terms of what is Kitmek doing, okay? And I understand that you're really looking at revolutionizing the whole education as a concept and looking at really educating the world. Would you like to talk a little bit about Kitmek in terms of what you're doing and how you're really applying Metaverse as a concept in terms of solving the education problem which the world faces today?
Yeah, hi, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Siddharth, for the introduction. And I would like to start on I want to introduce Metaverse also by my own style. See, for everyone to understand in very simple terms, Metaverse is a digital world. That's it. Okay. When we talk about digital, it means of how you experience the Metaverse. So you can see it via your phone, you can access it via computers, or the new technologies which Manjunatha said about AR, VR, and the twin sets that he's talking about. So that's how the digital part of it. Now the other part is the world. Okay. When we talk about the world, a world needs to have a currency in which you can trade in the world. Then it needs to provide an identity for our avatars in the metaverse. Okay. Then the avatar needs to have a sense of belonging. That's when he buys assets in the metaverse. Then finally, which I think which is the most important part of the metaverse is that it should value add to our current life by the experiences we are having in the metaverse. So this whole metaverse, the digital world, will come into being and will become more popular as in how the experiences of what we have in there are enhanced. And that's what most of the companies today that you will see are trying to deliver, an experience by itself. Now, coming to my company, Kitmek, as what you've already rightly mentioned, we're changing the face of education globally. Okay. Kitmek is the world's first gamified digital school in the metaverse. Now what we do is we've seen passion in kids for gaming. And what we did is we took that passion of gaming and converted into a school. Now our digital school where the child's avatar can go, he can go to his grades, if he's a grade 1, 2, 3, whichever grade he is. And inside the grade building, he gets his classroom. From when he goes inside the classroom, he can select from a variety of topics that he wants to study. Once he goes into the class, our classes are 5 minutes to 10 minutes maximum, in which 9 real students are sitting with him, all avatars. Okay, and in the classroom which is running by an AI teacher, there is no physical, no real teacher whatsoever in our game. The child gets buzzer rounds in between, and then at the end of every class, 5 questions. Once he answers these questions correctly between him and his friends, he gets points. Now that is our currency. When you make these points, with these points, we have given entertainment features. So in-house, in the game itself, we have a shopping mall where he can go buy avatars and he can change his identity. And we have an amazing music concert. We have a very big amusement park. And we have games which he can play with his friends in-house. So now here we are, we give education to the child at his fingertips, okay, and which he can access anytime that he wants to. It's fun because he and his friends are there. And then with the currency that he's earned, he can entertain himself. So it's a self-motivating ecosystem that we have developed. So kids to work around the world. Now our platform is very special in the way that we've designed. It's taken 2.5 years to design. Is that the game works on any mobile. So we are trying to access any poor child, anyone in the globe. So he downloads the game one time and the game doesn't even require internet. So your child can sit at home and he can, if there's a poor family somewhere in Africa and Uganda, they can download the game and then the whole, all of them can study. Our first launch is kindergarten to grade 5. And then after 6 months, we'll be launching grade 6 to grade 12 in different languages. Yeah, thank you.
No, thanks, Anand. I think what resonates with me is not just this, giving access to education in a digital form, but the fact that it's something which can be accessible to all. It doesn't have to depend on your costly VR headsets, or you don't have to have a gaming laptop or a gaming device to really access the content which you're creating. Okay, which sounds quite exciting.
Well, that is what the metaverse is all about.
Yeah.
The metaverse should give. See, people are trying to put it on Oculus sets. You know how expensive these are. To run the Oculus set, you need a very big computer which has a heavy graphics card. That is not accessible. How many of you have a computer at home who wants to access? So eventually the metaverse which will succeed will be the one which is available on a basic phone. And that's how we see it.
No, absolutely. And which is why I think the fact that once your platform and the technology which you're kind of putting out there, it's something which will make education accessible to anyone and everyone across the world. Okay, I think that's something which resonates quite a bit. But one question which I had, as a father of a 12-year-old son, okay, who I see practically the entire day, on his iPad or laptop, kind of playing something. I don't even know what he does. And in general, also there are a lot of concerns around security. The fact that today kids are spending pretty much their entire time, okay, on their laptops or in a digital world, whereas there is a certain importance given to physical interactions, in terms of their social skills. Okay, any thoughts on that?
I think you're very right, and all my audience, they would also be suffering the same. The pandemic saw the rise of a lot of digital new technologies, but it has also given us problems like our kids are so addicted to it, and then they are talking to people in the games which you have no idea about. So, obviously, I'm a father of a 6-year-old daughter, and when I'm making my platform, all of Kitmek will be so safe for you and your child that there would be no influence of any third party. And we've given a parental app which will control all of the friend requests and everything. And most importantly is what he said. See, technologies today are bringing everything very close to you. So first you have the TV, then you have the phone, and then you have Oculus, which is right on your face. But we at Kitmek are changing the whole system. Our technology is built, which we'll be launching in a year from now, in which you don't need to touch your phone for anything. The child needs to keep the phone under the TV, and that from that basic mobile, even without internet, the avatar gets locked to you. Now, when you're walking in the real world, just standing and walking, their avatar is walking. So with this tech, which we have refined to the last T, is your child will be able to access the metaverse without being close to the screen in a very safe environment, okay? And then he can learn things like yoga, he wants to learn some games, he wants to learn some sports, he wants to learn dance, he wants to learn music, anything and everything would be possible via Kitmek, and our schools, our classrooms will be touch-free. So you just need to move your hand around, and then that's how the cursor moves. So that's the tech which we're bringing in next, and that would change the way kids behave on the digital world and hopefully solve a lot of problems.
No, thanks. Sounds quite fascinating, Anand. Manjunatha, if I can move to you, in terms of probably an enterprise view of Metaverse. I think at Infosys, I'm sure you would be working across sectors, across industries, across problem statements. Would you like to share with us, some of the experiences of what's really happening in terms of use cases or applications across different industries, and maybe a couple of them you want to deep dive into?
Sure. And just before that, I just want to share the concern that Siddharth was talking about. 2 boys, still young, but we are all worried on the amount of time they spend on the devices. And I don't know what Metaverse is going to bring them, but that's another topic. Now, getting on to the enterprise applications. So here again, this whole idea of the concept of Metaverse may be a relatively newish, but the technologies and the applications driving many of those pieces of technologies have been in existence for a while, and people have been working across the globe. Companies have been trying to use them across the globe for many years now. Just to look at some of the enterprise applications where we are seeing a lot of traction is number one is on the phygital side of things. A lot of people are trying out this technology called the digital twin, where you're trying to create a twin or a replica of something real. It could be, for example, this entire building, a digital version of this entire building, a digital version of an aircraft engine, a digital version of a generator. I mean, you can think of anything physical and trying to create a digital version of that, which is live. So you can actually see, you can navigate, you can walk around that particular facility. So many people like BMW have created this entire factory, digital factories, digital power plants have been created, etc. The closest way to think about it is, for example, if you were to go to an architect, and nowadays even online you can go check out new houses, you can actually walk through a new house that you want to buy, where you will get an immersive experience of, you're going into the living room here, this is how the lobby would look like, etc. So you can imagine a much more sophisticated replica of physical systems which have instrumentation all around. For example, if it is a power plant, how much of power is getting generated, where, how are the machineries working, are they within the controls, they're not in controls, so that you can remotely monitor and manage this entire plant from, thousands of miles away and not necessarily in the plant. So people are trying to create these digital twins from this 2D kind of maps that you would have had, where you can actually now ultimately get a very immersive view of the device that we're talking about. These are used largely for, say, training, enablement, simulation, planning. These are all kind of different applications that you will see with such digital twins. The second set of applications that we are seeing is a whole lot in the area of employee enablement. For example, onboarding. You want to train somebody who's coming in new. Even recruitment. You want to engage a lot of people for onboarding or for interviews, etc. You're seeing in enabling field force. So the field force that goes into different platforms, and say, for example, somebody has to come and fix a wire here. How does that person even know where that wires are flowing? So now today with an headset or some sort of an visual device, you'll be able to discover a wire is flowing here or a pipe is there, and then I need to fix this particular part, and then things should be fine, right? So we are seeing these kind of applications with the employees. The other set of consumer application that we are seeing is in terms of remote entertainment. A whole host of communication about sports. Really today, whatever you're watching as cricket or tennis or whatever game, you can get a much immersive experience of the game. You'll almost feel you're in the game. In fact, better than an experience of being in the stadium. Because we are able to simulate the behavior of the crowd, the noise of the crowd, and you can actually get a 360-degree view. So you can sit, today on the south end, the next moment you can sit on the north end, and you can experience the game in a much richer way beyond what you would have done otherwise. So this is another big area where all these media and sports companies are able to invest and create these new experiences for the companies and for the consumers. In terms of the last, services kind of companies, you would see people looking at applications around front offices, branches. So banks would try to create a branch in the metaverse, right? A retail company would create a retail store on the metaverse, so that people can go and buy stuff or experience new stuff that they want to buy, etc. So these are some of the kind of applications around phygital and the immersive experiences. Obviously, once you come to the decentralized one, you would see a lot of aspects like what Arvind was talking about, cryptos and NFTs, etc., which are slightly futuristic in terms of making it available for enterprises at this point in time.
No, I think thanks for that detailed summary in terms of applications, Manjunatha. Just a couple of follow-on questions. So one, with any new concept or technology, okay, I think The key question is that, is this something, a solution looking for a problem, or really a solution really already solving some problem statements? So the examples what you gave, what is your experience? Is this something which is real, already being used, and what has been the experience on the return on investment?
Yeah. No, I think, see, first of all, this is a very, at the level of a metaverse is a relatively new concept. But like we were talking about, the applications of the underlying technologies have been there for a long time. For example, people have been training, pilot training has been happening on simulators for a long time. That's a real application that's been there. And today you're able to get a better trained pilot at a less cost, less risk, because they've been able to train on a simulator, right? Now you're making it much more available of sorts. Today, if you want to train a plumber, you can train. You don't need the kind of simulator or the expensive simulator that you would have created for a pilot. That is what this technology is bringing in. So more and more, you will see democratization of this technology, availability for businesses and skill sets which are not as expensive as a pilot training, and hence they're real for real world applications. In fact, many of our clients have used it for their current ongoing businesses. So I wouldn't say this is a pipe dream that everybody is looking for. The components are certainly real of this. Now, the entire metaverse as it being envisaged, is it real? Is that something that's going to have a certain ROI? Is it going to happen soon? I think that's the work in progress that's happening. There are a lot of innovations yet to be cracked. For example, people are creating avatars. Now, how do you create avatars which are real life and can behave real life? And if these avatars are created, then what is the social engagement interaction that they will have? Earlier on we were talking about the issue with kids using these platforms and the concern that we have. In fact, some of the biggest challenges that you will see are in the area of ethical behavior, fraud, misuse. Already people are talking about places where there's being bullying of people, who are on these kind of platforms. So all of the problems that we have today in the real world is going to become multiplied in the metaverse, and many of them, I don't think even we know what are the problems and how do we solve those problems. What about privacy? So in fact, we don't even know what it means in terms of psychological impact on people who are going to live as some avatar there in a fantasy world, and how are they going to react when they face a real world, which you have to face on a daily basis. So there are many, many problems and challenges need to be overcome to get to a real metaverse. But there are many components of it which are real, which are implemented today and seeing value for our clients.
Sure. I just want to call out, is Shourya around? Just want to do a check on him. Okay, I guess he's still not reached here. So I think the very valid points. I think in terms of the problems and challenges, my own personal view is that I think the Generation Z, okay, and the young people, there's no shying away from the fact that they're going to spend a lot more time in a digital space, okay, and we'll have to obviously solve for these problems. I think how do we kind of give them a more enhanced immersive experience? That's what I think Metaverse is about, and there's a lot of potential in terms of how that gets applied. The other thing which I picked up from you, Anand, was that it has to add on to the real life. Okay, it can't be a alternative for what the real life is. It has to add to what our real lives are in terms of whatever you can then get as an experience in the virtual world. Now, moving on, I think you started picking up, Manjunatha, on some of the issues and challenges. But probably, Anand, from your perspective, before I come back to you, Manju, for this new concept, okay, to really scale up and really gets applied to solve some of the real life problem statements, what are the roadblocks or challenges you see which needs to be overcome?
Yeah, Siddharth, so you're very right about this point. See, any technology, when you see our history, when internet was introduced. Internet, when the dot-com bubble was there, so everybody, any company which was related to dot-com was enhanced, the share prices went very high. Before then people realized that fine, okay, this is dot-com, but what do we do on it? That's when this question was also arised. And that's when the burst happened. So from a Facebook, which was the net worth of Mark Zuckerberg around 106, now it's come down to 55. Is this the same process which happens? When you introduce a new technology, yes, for sure the technology is here to stay. But when you introduce a new technology, it rises up, because we are a social media world now, it rises up very quickly, but then we also realize that what is in for us? Why do I use this metaverse? What am I going to get out of it? And that's where the correction happens. So today we are seeing a time of correction, and then real companies with real value propositions, okay? Like if I'm taking care of education, somebody else will take care of something else. And these companies will arise, and then we come together, the true metaverse will be created. Now the roadblock, the major roadblock that we are facing in the metaverse is everybody is trying to create their own. Meta has its own platform, Decentraland, you see Sandbox, you see so many of these big names. They have their own platform which is made on a technology which doesn't talk to each other in a little bit of technical terms. Okay, so an avatar which is created on a metaverse cannot go to a Decentraland or something like that, because they're using a different language altogether. So when this will change, when a true metaverse will emerge, that as an internet, see, internet is you put your website .com, that's it, right, or whatever. So you can navigate between these sites. But on a metaverse, you have to go to one, you have to install that, probably hardware, pay a lot of money, and then access whatever they have to give you. And this, once this changes over a period of next 5 to 7 years, or when the technology gets more enhanced, more user-friendly, to access it is not too much of cost, you will see a true metaverse emerging, and which will integrate the whole system in a way that it will enhance your today's life and give you a very big experience. That's the potential of metaverse, and it will happen very soon.
No, I think thanks. I fully agree that interoperability is very important for achieving a certain scale, whether it's metaverse or any other new technology or the platform. Manju, I know you started touching upon some of these challenges which are more on the ethical side, but any other blockers or challenges you want to talk about?
Sure. See, I think today one of the most fundamental challenge is the user experience, which is coming through the devices. I think Arvind referred to it earlier on, that you need to, buy an expensive device that you will need to wear. And if you are to be persistent there, you need to be using it for a long time at any given point in, day. So I think there is a significant amount of innovations happening to transform these devices, to make them as simple, as easy to use, and as easy to experience, so that the consumers are able to use these devices as easily as they would use the glasses that you're wearing, or the paper or the pen that you're using, etc. I think that's the first degree of innovation that will kind of solve this adoption problem. A device that is very easy to use, consume, and normal. The second one is in this whole area of the software. I think there was a talk about the interoperability of the software, and also our ability to scale building such software for usage. You can imagine today if you want millions of people to be using such a platform in million different ways, there has to be some software to be developed that cannot be developed in the classical way that we are doing today. So there needs to be a new paradigm to engineer these new avatars and new experiences on this metaverse world. I think that is the second big transformation that is required for us to get over. The third is this entire consumer behavior change. See, today, I think we are talking about this Gen Z. I don't know now what we'll call the next generation after this, but they may be comfortable doing these games and everything else. But what about rest of the whatever 8 billion or 7 billion population that we have? Even today, you're seeing a lot of resistance to use technology in different fashions. And here you're talking about being in this metaverse almost your life of sorts. So which means a very different experience that the consumers will go through. So they will need to adapt to a different world almost. So I think that's the third big dilemma that we need to address before it becomes democratized and before it becomes universal for everybody to participate.
No, I think if I just put yours and Anand's piece together, I think my take is that for the non-Generation Z to adopt it, okay, it really needs to add some value to what's the real life already today is, okay? Because I'm sure before iPhones, okay, people were still going on, and I'm sure after iPhone, nobody can just let go of their smartphones. I'm not promoting iPhones here. Sorry about that. So smartphones. But I think it has to be something which adds to the experience. And if it has got value, I guess across generations, people will adopt it. So Shourya, welcome. This one I can't hear you. Okay. Can we just change the headset? Can you hear me now? Yeah. So again, thanks for joining in, Shourya. If we were having this chat in the metaverse, I'm sure our avatar could have arrived on time, and you would have avoided the whole Mumbai traffic. But thanks for being here. Would you like to talk about what Flam is doing really in this space?
Sure, 100%. I think Metaverse has been talked about pretty much in the last 8-10 months. But it's very simple if you think about it. Everything that we know on internet today will change in the Metaverse. But essentially, it's going to be everything 3D. So internet in the last 25 years has been completely 2D. In Metaverse, it's going to be 3D. And that's a massive change, right? So whatever we are doing on internet today, whether it's like social networking or gaming or e-commerce or advertising, everything will happen in the Metaverse. So it's not basically a particular use case of gaming, social education or e-commerce. Everything will happen in the Metaverse. And it's essentially a massive change because we are moving from everything 2D to everything 3D AR, VR. So I think when we talk about such a massive change, it's not easy, right? Because we're talking about 4 billion internet users now becoming 4 billion plus metaverse users. So it's a massive shift in the whole way people have been interacting with technology and internet in general, right? So I think what Flam basically is doing is becoming that starting point, right? So we believe that whenever you want to make sure that there is massive adoption of something, the starting point cannot be logical. So this is a little counterintuitive, but like we believe that logic doesn't lead to massive outcomes. There has to be something illogical. So social networking in general, or basically entertainment in general, is illogical, right? Like there's no logic to why people should have cat faces or dog faces or Snapchat, right? But Snap is a large company, right? Like millions of monthly active users. So we believe that when massive adoption is talked about, you have to just keep logic aside for a bit. Like you can talk about education, you can talk about e-commerce and advertising. All these are logical use cases. But we talk about illogical use case, which is like people should have fun in the metaverse. Like how do you really interact with your friends? How do you really create 3D AR, VR content? And then that's exactly what we believe in. So for example, internet got massively adopted not because Flipkart happened on internet. Flipkart is a large company, obviously large company. Swiggy is a large company, Ola is a large company. But internet got massively adopted because Facebook happened on internet. Orkut happened on internet, Snapchat happened on internet, and people just want to have fun and connect with their friends, right? So I think in the metaverse, when we talk about Flam, our idea is that how do people socially interact in 3D, AR, VR, and that has to be the starting point for massive metaverse adoption.
I think thanks for that interesting perspective, Shourya. And being a logical person, I would still say that I actually see where you're coming from. Because 25 years back or 30 years back, when probably somebody would have said that there would be something like an internet or something like a smartphone, okay, it would have sounded quite unreal or illogical, okay. So today, whatever we've spoken about our metaverse in terms of the 3D world, the avatar, and you kind of sort of living an alternate life, okay, in an alternate world, may sound illogical, but it can be a probably a reality. It's there already in terms of some shape or form. It's there, but at a mass scale, when it becomes a part of our life, it's something which is absolutely possible. Okay, and given the pace of evolution, I was talking to Manjunatha that there were times when evolution used to happen every 10, 15, 20 years. Probably now that evolution cycle is 3 to 5 years. Okay. So yes, I think the whole metaverse as a concept is quite nascent in its early days, but given the pace of evolution, probably this is something which will become a part of our day-to-day life in probably 3 to 5 years.
100%, and I think, like you rightly mentioned, I think the evolution is going to happen really fast. So if you look at the evolution of content in general, right? So we started with text-based content on Orkut, just talking about social media in general. We started with text-based content on Orkut 20 years back, I think. Then we were on image-based content on Instagram, right? And then we were on video-based content on TikTok. So future of content is going to be 3D, AR, VR, and it's going to happen pretty fast. And it's already happening. It's already happening in the US. If you look at companies like Roblox, 50 million monthly active users, 100 million monthly active users are already doing it on such gaming platforms. So yeah.
Absolutely, and my son is one of them as well. So
Yeah.
we got just a couple of minutes. Any audience questions?
There
Can we
is
have
one.
the mic there, please?
Hello. Yeah, hi. So, towards the initial part of the discussion, when we were talking about the challenges that our future kids would face, although my daughter is just 1.5 years old, still I would like to know, should we not also look at the regulations in terms of when we are going to a world in terms of metaverse that's going to be 3D throughout, like in the longer run, like you guys said. So as of now, as far as I'm aware, there are no regulations as such to that perspective. So I would like to know the panel's views on what do we think, should we have regulations and how should we go about it?
You like to take that?
I'd like to take, in terms of kids, first of all, regulations is something which is very, very important, you rightly pointed out. But sometimes, regulations and governments come into action once there is a lot of damage which has already been created. Most of the times, this is when they get active. But in terms of, as an owner of a company, okay, I'm building my platform as a father too. So my platform has so many regulations that I foresee that any child who's on the platform doesn't get affected by somebody who he doesn't know, and he's not exposed to things that he should not learn for his age. So I think owners of companies should take this ahead and try and put regulations and not to cash in onto opportunities which the metaverse is creating by exposing our users and try and see their interest to start with. So we're trying to do it, and hopefully other companies will also get into the picture.
Yeah, I mean, if I have to add, first of all, I think the concern is very genuine. And I think this is universal. Pretty much every policy maker is worried about it. Every technologist who's building is also worried about it, like Arvind was mentioning. And it is not like there are no regulations. I mean, today, any data privacy regulation or data management regulation will apply even to the metaverse. So you will see a lot of current regulations being applied or should be applied to the metaverse. But I also think that there will be many more that will come because I don't even know today the real world problem that we have are going to get, amplified out there. Like we were talking about abuse. If there is an abuse on the platform, how do you handle it? Can you ignore it? Say, no, that's my avatar, it's not me who abused. So how do we handle such a situation? So I think there is a lot more regulation to happen, and it will catch up, obviously. But certainly the concern is genuine, and it is being worked on by different governments, agencies, etc. And I also believe if we don't have a sound governance mechanism for such platform, it will fail. It will be some sort of a graveyard where people would then avoid going.
Thank you.
Good morning. Am I audible? So, is there any way that Metaverse is going to interface with the real world? Why I said, well, Arvind mentioned that, it has to add to the real world. Now, say, for example, a banking transaction. Suppose you are doing it in the Metaverse, right? Is it going to reflect in the real world, in the bank branch? So, if I do a transaction over there, does it reflect in my bank branch? Just a question.
So Manju, would you like to take that?
Yeah. So, I'll give you some examples of what's already happening. And like you rightly said, see, one is living in this fantasy world completely, which may not have anything to do with the real world. So, Metaverse gives you that opportunity. So, you as in an individual or a set of people can actually live their fantasy life in that world, which has nothing to do with your real world. Okay, that's a possibility, right? A different set of games are there today. People play a game which has nothing to do with the real world. You kill, they kill, whatever happens, no problem, right? But when you look at enterprises, you will need to look at something today which are physical, leverageable, etc. So today, where you have seen applications is people need to understand the working of a machinery. And let us say we want to understand how an engine is working. And you need to train a set of people about how the engine functions. Today it happens through a very complicated, multiple years of aerospace engineers who get trained, etc., etc. But if you want to do a quick enablement and training, people can do it through a simulation of an engine. So now you can split open, the engine parts. You can easily see which goes where and what is this part doing, what are the dependency. I mean, similarly, medical students. Today people are able to train medical students slightly better and faster because you can simulate or at least, give a real life experience of a human body, right? And these are all real and physical and, you're learning. So these are the kind of applications that you will certainly see growing forward, becoming more and more, relevant and implemented across the world.
I'll just add, since you mentioned banking, I'll take a bit of a shot at it. Because what we are already seeing, as an application is, let's say, a front office or a branch. Imagine you're a non-resident Indian, you're not in India, okay? Today there are certain communication channels with which you can connect with the bank branch where you have an account, let's say, back in India. But imagine a more immersive experience, okay, where sitting somewhere outside of India, you can still pretty much visit the branch, sit across the table to a financial advisor or anybody you need to interact with, and have a conversation and interaction which is immersive in nature. And yes, I think as a step forward, which is where technology will have to catch up, that can you have a verifiable digital identity, okay, in that immersive experience in the metaverse, where if you have to sign a particular paper or authorize a transaction, you can actually do that, okay? So it's definitely a possibility, and it's something which obviously needs to be solved for, with the further enhancement of how you integrate digital identity, which is verifiable, into that immersive experience of just interacting in a virtual branch with a financial advisor, which is already happening. Okay, one last question, because this time's up has been there for quite some time. So maybe we'll just take one last question.
Morning. So when Metaverse is spoken about in conjunction with NFTs, something that's widely spoken is interoperability between the metaverses of two companies. What do you think about interoperability being a critical thing in the widespread adoption of metaverses, and how company collaborations could happen in future?
Yeah, I think he's very right on that. That's when the future will start. Yeah.
I think, if metaverse has to happen in its truest sense, there has to be interoperability. Just like the way we interact on an email today, we can send an email from anywhere to anybody across any platform. We may be using Gmail, somebody is using Outlook, somebody is using something else, but we are still able to interact and communicate. That is because in the behind the scenes, there is interoperability across these systems. So very similarly, you will see, or rather, it will happen where people, avatars and experiences, transactions are able to happen across these platforms. Today it's a challenge. Today it's not happening as the way we would want it to, but that's the roadmap capability that you will see soon to make it really adoptable worldwide.
Actually, I'll just like to add, it's a race, to be honest. The race to Metaverse, that's what everybody is doing. If Meta has changed, Facebook has changed the name to Meta, is because they know that the platform which gives access to everyone and all users can come and interact, that would be the way. So they're trying to make a platform rather than to solve solutions. The connection between both of these platforms or any other, it might not be possible in the next 10 years because they're on very different languages. But yes, eventually one will succeed and people will adopt. So wherever our users will go, I think that is the platform that should succeed. Yeah.
Thank you. I think we'll close the panel here. Thank you, Anand, Manju, and Shourya for an interesting conversation, and thank you, audience, for your time early in the morning. I hope this was a useful conversation, giving you a bit of a perspective on Metaverse, its applications, and closing our conversation. From my perspective, I think whatever I've heard, I hope you agree that as a concept, it's new, but the underlying technologies have been around for some time. It's definitely something which has potential in terms of applications going forward, opportunity for innovation. Definitely not a hype as far as I can see, and based on whatever I've heard today. So thank you for being a fantastic audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, panel, and thanks audience. Bye.
Again, I know it's a silent conference, but ladies and gentlemen, can we give our panel